Well, my name is Ryan Rowe. Originally, I'm from Inglewood, Los Angeles. 29 years old. Been blowing glass about 9 years now, a little over 9 years. I have a beautiful wife and a 13-month-old son. I found glass when I came down here for college here at JU, and basically what happened was the first year I was enrolled in JU, I was in the graphic design program. I found that kind of wasn't something that I wanted to do. It was two-dimensional work. I wanted something that was a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more physical. So I kind of stumbled into the glass blowing program one day. I saw into the glass studio. I saw a guy blowing glass, and I was like, "Oh man, this stuff is amazing!" And it just took me by surprise. I sat down for literally 2.5, 3 hours. I mean, I don't even remember. It was daylight when I came over. It was nighttime when I walked back to my dorm room, and it was just so unbelievable what I saw, and I was so intrigued by it. I thought, man, I got to take this. This is wonderful. So, fall of that following year, I ended up getting waived into the glass blowing course by my first teacher. She was a female. Her name is Caroline Madden. She was my very first teacher. She wasn't much of a glass blower. She was more of a glass caster. She casted a lot of glass, ladle casting, and sand forms and all that. So, in terms of blowing skills, they were pretty decent. Not up there with the masters, but she was pretty good at what she did. So she introduced me to glass, and she realized how proficient I was in it, how I was in the studio all the time, just honing my craft, and she just thought I was just so advanced, and I was almost like a little prodigy. And I don't know, it's just really, really fun. So I ended up declaring glass as my major, and it ended up honing my craft for the next 6 years while I was enrolled in JU. And basically, I took a semester off to do an internship out in Oregon, and I believe it was 2009, 2010. And I got a chance to work with some sculptors. One of the sculptors was a world-renowned sculptor, claimed to be the best sculptor of our time right now. His name is Pino Signoretto, Italian maestro, and he liked me a lot. He had a nickname for me as Labronzato, which means tan guy. So so it's just one of those things where he was funny, but he was very generous. He realized something in me in terms of paying attention to the glass. I didn't take a lot of notes when I was in his class because I was paying attention. I didn't want to be distracted by any type of writing or characters on my paper, any kind of steps or anything. One of the best languages that's out there is visual language. Being able to look at the material as it moves and just kind of digest it in your mind instead of writing it on paper. Sometimes it helps to just see it and really be fascinated with how all they do is just make one swoop of their hand, and it turns from a finger into actual wrinkles and actual fingernails, and it's not just a blob of glass anymore. And so those processes really intrigue me, and it's just one of those things where glass blowing is just, there's never an end to it. There's always something that you can build upon. There's no such thing as just making a vase anymore. You make a vase with flowers attached to it. You make a vase with spots and wrinkles and folds, and make it look like a trash bag, or make it look puffed up like a balloon. There's so many different ways of manipulating this glass nowadays, and this stuff is just amazing to work with. Now, glass blowing is it's technically a team working effort. You can do it by yourself, but that defeats the whole purpose of that communication time that you have between maestro and assistant. You want to be able to have one person take the stage and design and create, and you want to be able to have assistants that kind of share that same passion as the maestro and be able to smile at the end of the piece the way the maestro does, and and vice versa. Those assistants become maestros and they end up helping each other out, and they become proficient in their different types of styles, whether it's cane working or it's sculpting, solid blown work, making animals that are 3-4 feet long, making giant flowers, just taking small objects, making them bigger, taking big objects, making them smaller. There's so many different routes to this glass thing nowadays, and that's one thing I just really appreciate about it. This day and age is it's just one of those things where I see glass as just like a whole new remedy, a whole new ingredient to life. It's pretty much like my second home, as I've explained to some of my students. It could be, there's one thing where you actually have a son or you actually have a daughter, and that's your baby. It's part of you. It's half you. But it's another thing where you work with this material and you make every single piece as if it's your baby. You take care of it. You make sure you get angry at it. You're soft with it. Glass has feelings too, because sometimes the piece can fall off and it can break on you, or sometimes you can knock it off and it can be the most beautiful piece in the world. So it has its ups and downs, but such is life. So I don't know, it's just, I can go on and on and on about it. It's glass has just like changed my life in terms of what I really wanted to do as a major. For a while I was just kind of stuck. The whole first year I was really trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and as soon as I found glass, it just kind of saved me. It gave me a different kind of outlook, different perspective to the sculpture world. And speaking of sculpture, I also weld too. I've been welding for about 6 or 7 years now, and welding is very much so 25, maybe 30% of my work in terms of doing my stands and doing building upon glass and kind of adding to the glass, shaping it in a way that maybe I didn't want to capture in glass, but I decided to capture in metalwork, and just have that be kind of like a very muted element. But structurally speaking, the metalwork is able to it's able to cooperate with the glass in a way where it can be in a it could be in kind of like a niche environment. It can be in a museum quality environment. It can be in your homes. It can be a big sculpture that's downtown. It could be anything. And so I think learning the metal craft is pretty important as well when it comes to glass. So it's just cool stuff. I mean, well, technically it's hot stuff, but the burns and all that stuff, the blood, sweat, and the tears, it just never ends. It's it's just one of those things where you just like, it's a reminder. It's a constant reminder whenever you look at the burns and the tans on your skin, and how after 9 years it feels almost like leather now. People wonder like, oh wow, how can you take those 2200 degree temperatures? Your skin is like leather now. It's like, well, I've been there, done that. It's all about getting used to the heat and just not being afraid to just dive into it. Every once in a while, you have to feel that radiant heat. You have to be able to be close to the glass, and you got to be able to understand it. The only way to understand it is to be there with it. You can't always be 3 feet away from it. You got to be up close. You got to be 6 inches away from it. Take a look and make sure that those bubbles are out of there, or if those bubbles are controlled, make sure that they're in there properly. Because every detail counts. Even the ones that people don't see, that they come across 6 years later, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I never even noticed that was there. So just just being mindful of your techniques and knowing what you're doing, and just taking it as if it's like a glass of milk. You just really want to take it in, and glass is just something that it really overwhelms you. It really becomes part of you once you start doing it. I might be a completely different animal when I'm out on the street, but when I'm in the glass blowing studio, I'm just dead nuts on. I'm really into it. I appreciate what I do. It's a business as well. I do sell my work, but it's like a baby. You just have to treat every piece as if you would like to be treated. And so, I'm not sure what else to say. It's just, man, glass is cool. If you haven't had a chance to do it, because it's one of those things where if you're in the two-dimensional world and all you do is draw and paint, or say if you listen to a lot of music and you're not sure of how to speak through it three-dimensionally, take glass. One of my friends that I pretty much taught how to blow glass, he had been blowing glass a couple years prior to me teaching him, but I taught him a lot about the work that I like to make, and he eventually turned it into some of the work that he likes to make, mostly Italian-inspired cane work, Marini, which means, kind of like mosaic type work. He pretty much turned that into his style. He likes funky, shimmery colors and everything, and that's all inspired by the music he likes to listen to. He listens to a lot of techno, a lot of house music, a lot of uppity beat music, and so the fact that he was able to incorporate that into his work, it's just a testament to how you can use other objects, other inspirations in your life to incorporate into glass. So I encourage anybody who's interested in taking glass, take it. I help up here at the school teaching courses, demo series Saturdays and sometimes on Wednesdays, depending on how full the classes are. And if anybody's interested, come on in and take the class. Sign up with Brian Fruce, who's the head of the glass sculpture department, and he'll take it from there. But helping out here is it's really good, not just for the school but for me as well. It helps me to gain a little bit more recognition. It helps as a resume builder for my glass blowing career, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So, all right. The piece that I'm making is actually it's for my mom's kitchen table. She had wanted me to make a bowl for her for a while, and there's this one bowl that people ask about that's on the dinner table, and people ask, "Oh, did Ryan make that? Did Ryan make that?" She's had about 40 people ask her that, and she's like, "No, unfortunately, Ryan did not make that bowl." And so this kind of angered me. It's just one of those things where I'm like, "Mom, you need to get rid of that bowl. I will make you a bowl for that table." So 4 or 5 years later, I finally come around to making this bowl. Turned out a little funky, but I think she'll really like it. This is just one part to this series here, because I'm going to be incorporating some little floats that go inside of it. But basically, she wanted kind of like this long, kind of football-shaped bowl. Turned out being kind of like a hot dog, but it, again, like the funkiness. Sometimes people love stuff like that. So what happened was I ended up working by myself on this piece, and basically I used red as the base color. It's a coral red, and it just kind of gives you a nice rich color without being too deep, but without being way too bright. So it's the perfect combination of a red. And then I use these orange speckles, these solid pieces of orange color that I heated up and dropped in the water. I crushed it up in order to keep the chunks kind of big. I didn't want them to be like grains of salt. I kept them kind of big on purpose. So I ended up gathering glass, and I rolled those chunks onto the surface of the glass, and it rolled all the way around to the point where it looked like a bunch of rocks and pebbles on there. and I was just like, wow, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want, and this is exactly what she wants. So after I ended up doing that, I took another clear gather of glass over top of it just to kind of seal everything in so it wouldn't blow out unevenly, and also to make the form a little bit bigger. I began blowing it out and shaping it to a round kind of lollipop shape, flatten my sides, kind of rock back and forth, kind of give it that football shape. And then after that, I end up doing a little bit more shaping, getting flattened on the bottom, and I do what's called a punty. A punty basically it means bridge. You're taking a solid rod with a little bit of glass on the tip, and you're joining it to the bottom of the piece so that it'll break off later. You join it to the bottom, you separate it from the blowpipe, and then you begin working the open side, because when you blow glass, you actually work backwards. You blow out the piece, and then you flatten, and then you reverse it, and you work the open side of the piece. So during this process of working the open side of the piece, I torch, and I make sure that I keep heat in the top, but I don't want the back to get too stretched out or anything, because I need to keep that back stabilized. There's only so much you can blow it out when you're working it on the blowing iron. The rest you have to do it on the punty. So I begin this process of heating and shaping until I'm finally opened up to the point where I begin to spin out. As I heat this mass in what's called the glory hole, it's the reheating chamber that you reheat the glass in. It spits out about 2400 degrees, just enough to reheat the glass. I keep it in there, I turn slowly, keep turning. Finally, I open up the doors, I whip this thing out, and I keep spinning until centrifugal force allows it to open up, almost like a flower. And that is pretty much the last heat you can do for your piece. So at this point, you want to water where the tip of your punty is, because that's going to be the separation point between the glass that's on the punty and the glass that's part of the piece, whether it's a bowl, a plate, a cup, anything like that. So I water it, and then you hear it sizzle and crack. As it's sizzling, you get somebody to grab gloves, you knock it, and then they catch it with Kevlar gloves, and those were preheated so that they wouldn't shock the ends of the piece. They load it into the kiln that's held at 910 degrees, and begins that process at cooling it overnight. And usually it's about anywhere between 12 and 24 hours, depending on the thickness of the piece. So that's pretty much the process as we speak. So my name is Ryan Rowe. I'm a glass artist, and I travel pretty much around the U.S. blowing glass. Just realized that art is dying, and let's save it together. This stuff is really important. So let's all just get together and make it work out.